Good morning. Here we are, one day before an election. I voted early. Hopefully, you either voted early or you'll be there tomorrow. It's the best way we can solve some of the issues if we have any. My name is Wayne. This is Wayne's World. You're in my world for an hour to talk about a number of things, including the 8 money myths that might be holding you back. Once again, some of you will be underwhelmed by a few of these. Some of you will be overwhelmed by these. Basically, there's a lot of truths out there about money, but there's a lot of falsehoods about money, and some are myths. And then once you, believe the myths are not reality, you can start your plan to build wealth. And once again, I don't like to talk about being rich because rich means you just have money, and that's nice. But being wealthy means you have time. And I don't know about you, but time freedom is so critical to my life. Here we are, first day of the work week. At midnight, we had 86,400 seconds to use. Some of you got a lot done already. Some of you just got up for this. And some people haven't even begun to think about today because they're still sleeping. And there's nothing about dreaming, but if you just dream a lot, you don't really become successful. So sleeping is something you need. Dreaming is something you do. We got to change those into realities. So I came up with 8 money myths. They're not brand new. Other people have said them. I'm going to talk about the many reasons why people don't build wealth. We have to look at inflation in this marketplace. That's for sure. We just saw the Fed raise for the 3rd time in a row a 75 basis point increase. And we still anticipate one more this year. And Chairman Powell has saying that we're going to be through this in the long haul. So we're looking at least 2023 and maybe a recession until probably 2024. Again, I don't think we need to worry as the realtors about the interest rates and house buying. Yes, it has an impact. But still, if you look at the history of the last many years, probably over 5, we still are within the realm of reason. It just looks worse than it is because we were so low. I can remember back in 2006, 7, and 8 when I had tenants able to move out of my houses or buy one of my homes because they got an adjustable rate at 1.67%. Unfortunately, when the Fed kept raising rates, many of those people lost those houses, and I actually bought a couple back. I actually bought some houses back from people who were living there as renters, then became owners, and then they're renters again. Now, that's sad, but that's reality. And those who don't understand history are bound to repeat it. And I say that several times. So let's look at some of the myths that we maybe can explode and know the truth so you can have your journey begin in 2023 with a head start right now toward financial peace, i.e. building wealth. Making money, being rich with money is nice, but how do you build wealth? That's where you have time freedom. Can't say it enough. So these are in no order of importance. They're not something that I would say everybody has not. This is one that triggers so much of a concern with me because it relates to time. I can always save later. Wow. If you want to stop living paycheck to paycheck, you've got to start building some way to stop some of the extra costs you're doing. Quick story. I always check Gas Buddy before I travel someplace to see what stations got what. And I had to go about 20 miles out of town yesterday from Northbrook, where I live, and looked at a couple of the Gas Buddy stations. And I just found one that was 70 cents a gallon cheaper, 70 cents cheaper than 2 stations within a quarter of a mile away. 20 gallons, $14 in my pocket. Now, here's the deal. Because every time you save, whether you save now, immediately, or put away money to save later, that's tax-free money. I saved $14 at that gas pump. I probably would have to earn $17, $18, maybe $20, depending on my tax bracket, to have $14 left over to buy gas. And this is where we have to realize, by taking that $14 now and saving it, because I would have spent it. See, if you just save that $14 the pump to go buy something for $15 inside the gas station, you've wiped out your savings. And that's the focus. Plus, we know there's hundreds upon hundreds of charts and graphs. Banks have them, especially if you start saving at age 21 on a set amount of money, how it differs from starting at 30 or 35 or 40. So the sooner you save, the longer you can enjoy your wealth. We'll talk about the rule of 72s, the rule of 144s before we leave. But you can't always save later. Nearly 1 in 4 people in America don't save anything every month. Save nothing. And very few save what they should. I know I probably blew some minds several months ago when I talked about my investment strategy that started me building wealth. And that is, how much money could I set aside on a monthly basis out of what I earned to be able to buy real estate investments? Because once again, I read Andrew Carnegie many years ago. The majority of self-made millionaires did it in owning businesses and buying real estate. So my life, and many of you that know me, know that I own businesses, I buy them and sell them, and I own real estate, investment real estate. You don't get rich owning your own home. You don't get rich owning your own home. You get wealthy by owning other people's homes. That's the key. We'll talk about that later. But savings is something that should be a concern. To building a future wealth plan starts with budgeting and saving. So I would always say, wait a minute, if I have to pay Uncle Sam 17%, 22%, 28%, 33%, whatever my tax bracket was, then I should be at least saving that amount for my future personally. So I, as a person who saw the power of being in business, being self-employed, not working for an hourly wage, realized that if I'm in the 25% tax bracket, then I'm going to save 25% towards investments. They're safe, they're long-term. Real estate was my choice. Today, gold, silver, diamonds could also be some hard assets to think about, as we've talked about during inflationary times. In fact, we're seeing more and more ads these days for gold and silver and precious metals and diamonds, as good quality diamonds, as investments because of inflation. Realize the power of saving later is nothing more, saving for later is nothing more than giving up something now. So obviously I had to, if I'm giving up 25% to Uncle Sam and I'm giving 25% into a fund that helps me buy investments for the future, I only have 50% to spend. So I lived in a very menial mindset, like many people do. So realize, take a moment, go online, look at some of the projections of putting $40, $50, $100, $200, $300 a month away at a certain interest rate over a period of time, and how by doing it at age 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, the difference in building wealth to where you really want to spend some money. And we have to save now because later just creeps up on us. Number 2, old cars aren't as safe or really expensive to run. You might have read Chris Hogan, The Everyday Millionaire. Good something to read and talk about. There's a lot of statistics about, quote, the average millionaire. And once again, millionaire is an interesting concept. We're looking at a lottery of nearly $2 billion. I mean, it's unbelievable, the numbers. But a millionaire, is a person that probably is generating enough money to do well, but in some markets, it's not a lot, but nothing wrong with it. But the average millionaire is driving a 5-year-old car with at least 41,000 miles on it. Just take a peek at what Warren Buffett drives in Omaha, Nebraska. More millionaires are driving used cars than ever before. They could be certified pre-owned. They could be cars they bought that have a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. I have a plan that sometimes if I want a newer car, I make sure the person I'm giving my car to knows they're going to get it in 3 or 4 or 5 years. And so I have a lot of my building managers personally know that that's going to be their car in 3 or 4 or 5 years whenever I trade, or longer if I keep something. So they tend to make sure it's taken care of, and they're telling people that they're going to have that car. Works out well for me. But basically, not only that, 8 out of 10 millionaires drive off of a lot debt-free without a car payment. So if millionaires can drive used cars, why can't you? I am driving right now 2 cars. One is 12 years old. The other is 6 years old. They're very nice cars. They're very expensive cars. But I did not buy them new. I don't mind keeping my cars, and we talked about this last week, being in real estate. If I drive a lot of miles, I'm better off using the standard mileage deduction. If I drive a very few miles, I might take actual expenses. We talked about that last week. Let's face it, old cars are safe. Old cars don't need a lot of service, and many old cars are being insured. Now, I would warn you, please be careful of the multiple ads and commercials and other ways of learning about these extended car warranties, no matter how many miles you have. If you're thinking of an extended warranty, you're best buying it from a dealer when it's under the original warranty. A factory bumper-to-bumper warranty from most car dealers can be bought, and it's very negotiable. Very negotiable. Can be bought at a just as good a price, if not better, and it's covering everything. A policy that is telling you what they don't cover means everything else is covered is better than a policy that says we cover this, this, and this, because there's many loopholes there. You want a policy if you're going to have an old car, because I believe in warranties, home warranties, car warranties, because we have too much electronics and too many problems. Realize a money myth is buying a warranty that is telling you we cover this, 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 and this. That means anything else is not covered. You're much better getting an exclusionary policy that says we don't cover this, this, and this. That's it. If it's not one of these, it's covered. And I looked at some of the ads. There's one out there from a company that's using a lot of celebrities, and they don't have an exclusionary policy. It's even hard to get them to give you a policy. So realize old cars, by their nature, are safe. And basically, millionaires and more of them are driving used cars. Now, number 3. My family won't be happy if I don't give them the best. Well, that's a misnomer, because best is a funny thing. Some of the most expensive appliances, some of the most expensive expenditures aren't really that much different. We know how some food you buy that's generic or store brand is just as good and made by the major companies. If you look at the packaging and understand packaging of food, every place has to identify where it was made. So if I pick up 2 frozen food products and I see this brand name was made at plant 2763, and I take a store brand or a generic brand, it's from 2763, it was made at the same plant. They have to do that for recalls. Your family does like, quote, the best, but sometimes what the best is may not be worth the value. So again, the ingredients and what it is you want. Some people want the best because they like the label. Example, I have furnaces. My brand name is Payne, Payne. A lot of people never heard of Payne. Guess what? Payne is the company that makes Carrier. So I could have paid a lot more money for my furnace. It had a Carrier logo on it, but I got a Payne logo on it and saved thousands, my HVAC. See, we got a lot of companies that make brand names, but they have their own private brand that they use. So don't get yourself hung up on the fact that it's important to show people the value of a dollar by buying the best. Again, we have a lot of items in our home. We have high-end microwaves, high-end air fryers, and we use half the digits, half the buttons. I got a blender. There's all kinds of stuff under puree, frappe, mix, whip, blend. I don't know which one the difference is. It seems like you just run faster and slower. And how many of you only use defrost and reheat and cook on your microwave with all those other buttons there and timers and everything else? So your family will be happy if you don't give them the best. And sometimes it's cheaper to not give them the best. I had a quote from a company that would put gutter guards on my house that would keep the leaves out so I wouldn't have to have my leaves cleaned and won't fall off of a ladder. Well, guess what? My gutter cleaner comes to my home twice a year. If I used him for over 40 years, I still would be paying less than paying for those gutters over a period of time. Those gutter guards are nice, but the long-term payback is unbelievable. I can pay a man to do that. Number 4 is kind of interesting because it relates to the fact that some people have this perspective that age gets into things. And my credit score is everything. I have to tell you something. That is a huge misnomer. Your FICO score is your FICO score. And I just noticed something. Experian, if you join their system, will boost your FICO score. And I know FICO scores mean something to some people. I know that FICO scores have advantages and benefits, but I do not have a high FICO score. My FICO score is probably around 710, 712. Sometimes it even dips into the 6s depending on what I do. But I will tell you this, with all the credit cards I have, and I have a lot of credit cards, some of you have listened to this before, because I pay as agreed, I get offers. I just got an offer from Huntington Bank. These cards came to me. I did not ask for these cards. I'm not going to tell you this to impress you, but to impress upon you. The credit limit is unbelievably high. Even though I have a low FICO score, and I'm sure you can't see this, but my credit limit is $450,000 on this credit card. Unsecured credit, because I pay as agreed. The computer says if he charges, he will pay. And I have never in my life ever paid interest on a credit card, other than the balance transfer fees, which you could call interest, to take money at 0%, as we talked about. It's not been that long ago when I reminded you that Wells Fargo Bank was the first one I have seen to give me a credit card with a 0% balance transfer for 21 months for 3%. For 21 months. So your credit score is not everything. Your credit score is nothing more than an I love debt score. And I don't have a problem with having debt as long as I have good debt. See, using a credit card to make monthly purchases and paying 25, 30+% interest is bad debt. But using somebody's credit card for 21 months, so for $20,000 worth of credit, I pay $600 less than $1 a day, roughly, and I've got $20,000 to use. That's good credit. So debt is, for some people, a motivator, but equity is sometimes an ego trip. Obviously, making monthly payments is where the problem comes in. See, credit's a power tool in a consumer workshop. And just as you have good power tools in your kitchen, in your workshop, in other places, life goes good if you know how to use those power tools. Some of you have all kinds of power in your cell phone and don't use it with the various options and apps you can put in. So we have a power tool called credit. You need to make sure that every 4 months, put it in your Outlook calendar or whatever calendar you use to go get a FICO credit score from annualcreditscore.com. It's a website from the government, and every 4 months you're allowed one free complete credit report. Since there are 3 major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, if you do one every 4 months, you will have a picture of your credit score and then realize there's probably a lot of things that aren't correct. And with the automated system, you can end up changing those just by working online and not going through all the paperwork of reporting things. Number 5. Why should I make more money? Uncle Sam's just going to take it. Well, people, you've heard me say several times, avoid taxes like poison. Again, there's tax avoidance strategies so Uncle Sam won't take your money. Once again, last week we covered the 179 tax deduction. As realtors, we have 2 months, less than 2 months, to go buy things we can expense totally to offset some of our income if we had a good year, to pay the least amount of taxes. Again, investment real estate. You know I'm focused like a laser beam on people buying 2 properties a year. Every year they're a realtor. Why? Because the value of all the residential properties you own, the building value of those condos, those houses, those duplexes, those 6 flats, whatever you have that's residential real estate, is able to have 3.6% of the building value written off every year, an artificial expense. This is why most investors that are considered real estate professionals, because of unlimited passive losses, can exclude much or not all of their income from the property, plus dip into offsetting some of their monthly and yearly income as a realtor. Remember, $3 million worth of building value is $108,000 tax deduction on paper against your income. 3.6% for 27 and a half years. That's the tax code. So Uncle Sam won't take it away if you don't let him. But once again, record keeping is a crew. And don't burden yourself financially. Don't burden your family financially by not taking advantage of good, solid tax avoidance strategies. I reminded you last week, and if you weren't here, I'll remind you for the first time. 2021 return, 2022 return. As realtors, we can write off 100% of our meals. And several of you wrote me some notes saying, wow, I didn't realize that. Wow, I got to do a 1040X. Again, if you're here for the first time, and this is the last year where you can write off 100% of all your meals for business versus 50%. And you can go back and do a 1040X amended return for 2021 if you and or your accountant didn't take it in the process. Number 6. I don't need insurance. A long time ago, 1966, 50 some years ago, Consumer Reports, still a magazine that a lot of people listen to, read, subscribe to, that compares products, gives you good values. They came out with a study that said buy term insurance and invest the difference. And they showed the difference in somebody buying a whole life policy versus somebody buying a term policy and investing the difference, how they accumulated wealth and control their money. Yes, if you drive a car, you need insurance. Yes, if you own a home, you got to cover your losses. But if you're a living, breathing human being, a realtor helping other people, it's kind of interesting that you are betting some company, I'm going to die this year. I'm going to die this year. And they say, no, you don't. Let's bet. And you bet. And if you don't, they say, great. Want to bet again? And every year you bet you're going to die and spend a lot of money doing that. So if you want to avoid the risk because you are going to die, I know that's a little morbid, but then buy term and invest the difference. In fact, there's people now offering you to give them your whole life policy and they'll buy you out while you're alive and give you some of your money back. It's unheard of. They'll give you some of your money back. And there are some life insurance companies that if you have insurance and pay every year over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if you're still alive, you can cancel the insurance as you get older and get all your premiums back because they're holding on to your money. This is a business. Every single major life insurance company has a pretty darn nice corporate headquarters. They didn't get that way by losing money by paying out a lot of life insurance claims. For some people, Social Security is considered insurance. Yet, you know the statistics? On the average, people who could retire with Social Security benefits, on the average, end up with a little over 2 years of payments for all those years. So you talk about avoiding taxes like poison. I have only had some term insurance until I realized I didn't need that. And I avoided Social Security taxes like poison. So as I sit here today, I can never collect any Social Security retirement benefits. I'm not eligible. I don't have the quarters. I looked at that years ago and said, mathematically, that cannot work. I'm going to be worse off if I rely on Social Security. I'm going to be worse off. So I took it upon myself to do what I'm suggesting that you do. Build wealth, get time freedom, create passive income. I'm not the first person telling you this if you read. This is not more than a reminder. You build wealth. Don't get rich. Build wealth so you have time freedom, my friends. The truth is, you'll spend a lot more throughout your lifetime on high premiums and never even see the cash value. Wow. Look at the Consumer Report study from 1966. It's been updated a little bit, but that's how long ago we were suggesting this is not one of your best investments. Number 7. The neighbors have it. Why shouldn't I? That's that old keeping up with the Joneses process. Very dangerous game. And I know kids put pressure on you, partners put pressure on you, just seeing the things that you think you should have. I have no problem using passive income to buy things because I didn't work for it. I have a very serious problem taking my money that I worked for and spending it because somebody else has it. Because you find yourself in a bigger hole, in deeper debt. I've got a lot of people I know who try to keep up with the Joneses, and they're driving cars they can't afford. They're going on vacations they can't afford. They're buying clothes. They're buying cosmetics. They're buying all kinds of things, getting services done. You should be content with what you have. But maybe sometimes it's better to pay a little more in the long run to make it last a long time. Like, again, driving a car for several years. Your family, your bank account will thank you later. And I think that's a hard one to think about as you look at it with your kids. Why shouldn't I have what the neighbors have? Number 8. I'll always be broke. Wow. This is interesting to me. You know, I have a motivational philosophy. If you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you'll be right. So if you believe you'll always be broke, then you'll always be broke. But if you believe that you can build wealth, that you can start and take advantage of time, then something starts to happen. Broke people oftentimes get out of debt when they finally decide they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. It takes hard work, takes some motivation, but look at your credit card statements and look at what they had to put in by law several years ago. That tells you if you just add an extra $100 to your monthly minimum payment, how soon you get out of debt. It's amazing, amazing. The other end of that is if you just add $100 to your savings plan, and you can see some of these charts, what happens, or spend an extra $100 to pay your mortgage off. See, we got a lot of ways to accelerate paying off. Interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Unfortunately, it can work the wrong way. That's why we have 15-year mortgages. That's why we have bi-weekly mortgages. That's why we have people do a number of things in the process. I was with a loan officer this weekend, and he was telling me how many more buy downs they're doing in real estate loans these days because interest rates are creeping up. And I remember years ago, I always would do a 3-2-1 buy down suggestion for my sellers instead of lowering a price. Another whole topic, but it proves to me that when you start paying things down faster, see, it's not how much debt you have, it's how fast can you pay it off. It's not how high the interest rate is, it's how fast you can pay it off. So there's a lot of myths about people that don't have money. See, it's a myth that you'll always be broke unless you always want to be broke. If you think you can or you think you can, either way, you're going to be right. My theory is there are a lot of options. We have people that are what we call having a second job or a side hustle, and we look at their numbers in the process. And some people have dual incomes with partners working. There's a lot of ways to avoid the problem, but also going back to our first one about cutting back a little bit could be an advantage for you. So those were 8 myths. Nothing that is totally earth-shattering and reminding you, but more importantly, let's shift gears and make it a bit more of a fun rest of our time together. Inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. And obviously the Fed says we still must have a big problem because we raised them again and we got one more raise. We're now resembling the total increase in the Fed's rise in interest rates that we had back in 2004, 5, and 6. But they did it over 17 Fed meetings of every 6 weeks. Now it's much shorter. It's been since March, not even a year. So they really did something good. And I'm not going to get into whether they should have done it sooner. Many people say yes. Most people agree that was wrong. We also have this basic problem of too many dollars chasing too few goods. And as a result of the Fed doing their things, they're trying to, the balloon blew up pretty fast. Now you can't let the air out real fast unless you want to slow return. So the recession will probably have to kick in to get the balloon to come down to a better size slowly, letting the air out in a controlling way versus in an uncontrolled way. Transferring wealth, again, there's inflation strategies, there's recession-proof strategies. You might want to spend some time looking at how each one affects you. Either way, whether it's inflation or recession, we have these cycles all the time. We never know how high or how low they're going to be. I don't think if you ask somebody in March that we would have interest rates that have over doubled, which still are pretty in good shape. Again, 7%, 6.95, these are not bad rates. They just look bad, see. But this is all that's happening. Wealth is transferring. You got to be the person that receives the wealth, the transferee instead of the transferor. So there are going to be some good bargains because people pay too much for things. There's going to be some people that are going to not be able to make payments on things. They're going to be turning those in. There's going to be more things for sale as people try to find ways to save money. Pawn shops are getting more and more items. There's more and more items on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay than ever before. If you look at some of the items, a lot of people selling a lot of stuff because they need money. They haven't made up enough in their increase in their wages, so they got to sell stuff. Well, all I suggest is please, 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 please learn a strategy during inflation. For example, what did I do? I just saved $14 on a tank of gas. Not a big thing in the scheme of things, but why do I want to have to earn $20 so I got 14 to get nothing more than I had a month ago? I looked at my gas station receipt from the last gas I bought at that same station right before the last presidential election. I paid $1.99. Yesterday, I was at the same station and paid $3.79. Yet right around the corner, it was $4.49. But from $1.99 to $3.79 in a couple of years. Did I make twice as much money in a couple of years? Not everybody can say they did. Some people are the same or worse. They didn't get a lot of pay raises. So inflation or recession doesn't make a difference. Just always remember, what am I doing to be the transferee of the wealth versus the transferor of the wealth? Something else that is important is, again, this is my philosophy. I share it several times. I use my money to buy assets that make more money. Can I buy something low and sell it high? Can I buy these for that price and sell them for that price? Can I invest in something I see is going to grow? See, other people use money to buy things to make it look like they have money, keeping up with the Joneses. I have nice things. I could have better things. I don't have the best things. I don't have the most expensive car. I don't have the most expensive wardrobe, but I got nice things because I learned that I'm different from people because I want my money to help me make more money. Money talks, wealth whispers. That's why you see on the screen next to me, the wealth whisper. Invest in assets, not on things that are losing value. If you're going to borrow, create good debt versus bad debt. Some of those pawn shop items cost somebody 2, 3, 4 times what they're trying to sell them for. Much of the stuff on Facebook Marketplace was bought for much, much more than they're trying to sell them for. Just remember, money talks, wealth whispers. With that said, realize, why don't people build wealth? Well, there's several ways of looking at this. One, most important to me, it didn't occur to them. I shared a few things today that maybe were aha moments for you. I hope they were. But once something occurs to you, you didn't decide to do it. Again, putting an extra $100 a month away toward a mortgage, buying a 15-year, doing a biweekly mortgage and saving thousands of dollars, but just paying every 2 weeks instead of once a month, half the payment. Once they decided to do it, then they put it off. I can do it. I'll start in December. November, I had Halloween. I got Thanksgiving coming. I got extra money. I'm going to have people over. I got to buy a turkey, blah, 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 blah. I had to buy candy. Candy was expensive. Oh, my God. You don't get started. You don't build well because you put it off. You procrastinated. The other bigger problem, as I see it, is most people don't understand the time perspective. I mentioned the rule of 72s earlier and the rule of 144s. See, I know that if I know right now inflation is at roughly 8+% or 7.8%, but at 6%, everything doubles every 12 years. 6 into 72 is 12. I can find by dividing any rate of return, any growth, whatever it is, I know my money will double in that many years. Now, I mentioned over the last couple of weeks that I bonds were paying 9.62% guaranteed by the federal government if you bought one before October 31st. Raise your hand if you bought one. I did. Pat yourself on the back if you bought one. I did. Why? Because I like giving somebody a safe investment at 9.62%. Some of you didn't do that. Well, now you can look at, see, what are they going to have the next 6 months come up to pretty soon? And maybe it'll be a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But wow, even if the next 6 months it goes down to 3%, I still average over 6% if I keep it in for a year. Wow, can't complain. The other thing, because this is my passion, many people do not know how to effectively negotiate. I use the word effectively because it's more critical and more understandable than efficiently negotiate. See, sometimes people will give you something just to keep you off their back. I am negotiating, quote, so to speak, by doing tax appeals on all my properties. Every one. I know many times the local township assessor will, the first step we have in my state, will give me something to see if I'll just shut up. But I also know that at least in the county I live in, I can go do a computerized review and maybe they'll give me a little more. I also know I can go to the board of review face to face, eyeball to eyeball, and let them decide. And if I still don't think I got enough, I can go to the property tax appeal board at the state. Takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, but I can save a lot of money. We have to realize that we have to learn how to better negotiate. I have found in my life of teaching negotiations and becoming I wouldn't say an expert at it, but no, I would call myself an expert at it because I have a standard criteria the Federal Trade Commission says is way above what the average person knows about negotiations. And my 8-hour CE credit in Illinois for realtors proves that for many of you that have taken the class. But more importantly, I realize that the only thing I cannot negotiate in my life is water bills. I do not have one town, one village, one county, or one city that allows me to negotiate my water bills. All I can do is buy energy efficient appliance, the dual flush toilet, the shower heads that come out with less water. I can control the dollars I spend by buying energy efficient water saving devices. But I can't negotiate the water bill. But I can negotiate electric bills, gas bills, cars, food, furniture. Everything's negotiable. Everything's negotiable. So as a wealth builder, it's not how much I make, it's how much I keep. Every dollar I negotiate off of a price is tax-free dollars. Tax-free dollars. The gasoline fill up yesterday is a proof of that at a small pace. If I take an extra this, that, these, or those off something, but you got to shop around. You got to use eBay to see what's completed sales to get an idea what prices are. There's tons of apps you can do with this. A lot of ways to prove that process. You got to effectively negotiate. People also don't build wealth because they don't have some type of a standard plan to keep investing. Now, conservatively, just putting money away in an account. An FDIC insured account, no risk, not as much reward. Taking some risks. Some people are into riskier investments, mutual funds, money market funds, EFTs, real estate, precious metals, rare cars. I've got a friend of mine who invests in rare cars. I've got people that invest in paintings. People who invest in memorabilia, autographed memorabilia. I'm not sure. Artwork. Oh my God. See, some things I can enjoy. I'd rather have some artwork in my house that was going up in value than money in a vault or in a savings account or a passbook. There's a lot of ways of doing this, people. But those are the main reasons why you don't build. It didn't occur to you, didn't decide to do it, put it off. And the key one is can't delay instant gratification. You can't have it now. It's a nice idea, but sometimes it's better to wait. How much stuff was on sale after Thanksgiving? How much stuff will be on sale after Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa? How much stuff is available cheaper at the end of a season than it is at the beginning of a season? Realize this. I'm going to leave you with this thought because I'm focused like a laser beam on real estate as a way to build wealth. Real estate is the ideal investment in Wayne's World because I can't find very few other investments that give me all those kind of benefits. I get a monthly income. I can depreciate 3.6%. I get equity buildup as my tenants are giving me a monthly payment to pay off my loans. I get appreciation. I can judge that by where I buy and when I buy. And above all, I can leverage little or no money down. Second, third mortgage, credit card, cash advances, all kinds of ways. So I always want you, almost every time I talk, to realize that I am focused on the ideal investment. Not the best. Some people made a lot more money than me in the stock market, but over the long haul and over time, I'm selling and have an offer right now. I think it'll be accepted. We're going back and forth on just a few items, for a couple $1,000s apart, on the first investment property I ever bought. The first one I ever bought many, 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 many years ago. I can't even count the number of tenants that have been in that property. In a college town. Boy, I'm looking at that, what I paid for it and what's going to sell for. I'm looking at all the benefits I got from depreciation, how the loans were paid by the people living in it. It was a 2-unit, a duplex. And I looked at its appreciation. Wow. So we know that's there, and I'll keep talking about that every time we're together, remind you to buy your 2 a year. But the more you know about the past, the better you're prepared for the future. Theodore Roosevelt quote. So remember, we know what happened back then. We know what's going to happen now in the future continued inflation and the eventual future recession. Just go back and read. Those who don't understand history are bound to repeat it. Can't stress that enough. So here we are. We spent nearly an hour covering a number of myths, a number of reasons why people don't build wealth, but more importantly, realize the power of time. Time control. I told you the rule of 1 of 72s was money triples every time you divide the interest rate or rate of return or the growth in the economy from inflation into 72. Money triples if you take that same rate of return into 115. Money quadruples if you take that interest rate or inflation rate or return on investment into 144. It's nice to perceive today how my return could quadruple by using the 144 rule. You can look these up on the internet. I didn't make these up. They're not secrets. They're just out there people haven't looked for. And again, what did I do with you today? Hopefully, I reminded you to think about why you're not building wealth and what some of the myths are. And here we are at the end of the year, tax planning season. One of my 10 income commandments of wealth building: avoid taxes like poison. People, take advantage of your Schedule A. Take advantage of your Schedule C, profit or loss from business or profession. Take advantage of a Schedule E, rent and royalty income. Take advantage of a Schedule S for self-employment. Because in the world of wealth building, you win with aces. If you fill out a Schedule A, a Schedule C, a Schedule E, and a Schedule S, you are a wealth builder. I do not see people filling out those 4 forms every year who are not building wealth. I don't care what their income is. They're doing those 4 forms. I'm convinced they're building wealth. With that said, I hope you have an enjoyable November. I hope you have a solid strategy to end the year and blast past 2022 and start to develop your long-term plan that you can implement starting now to get a jump start on 2023. Have a safe, wonderful week. See you next week in Wayne's World.